So now I want to turn your attention to a Flashpoint update as it relates to the recent Israeli elections. Very, very significant. Just a day or two ago, the Israeli elections for the leadership, for the prime ministership of Israel. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been prime minister for many years. And to be quite honest with you, he has been in a very difficult campaign up until the election. It was very intense. There was a centrist group where two individuals came together and formed a new party in Israel. Just about a month and a half ago, they formed a party called the Blue and White Party. And these two centrist individuals, Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz, one was a news journalist, Yair Lapid, and the other one was an Israeli military general. The two of them got together, formed a new centrist party called the Blue and White, and they formed a formidable threat toward the re-election of Benjamin Netanyahu. And it was really neck and neck in terms of the voting, how that was going to go, and all of the pre-election polls. And the way it turned out is that essentially those two parties tied, those two individuals tied, the Blue and White Party and the Likud Party, which is Benjamin Netanyahu's party, Likud, which is a right conservative party. They tied with Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud just eking out a small victory as it relates to the specific voting for those two parties. However, it's very important to understand in Israel, you don't just become prime minister because you had the most votes. You have to form a coalition. And there are many parties in Israel, and you have to reach a certain threshold of votes, a percentage of the vote, in order to actually have seats in parliament. So there were many that did not make the cut, or several that did not make the cut in terms of the voting that took place in Israel. They got essentially pushed to the side. They will not have a voice essentially in parliament, or a strong voice. They won't be represented there. However, there are many other parties that did reach the threshold of percentages that they needed. However, this is very important to understand. Even though the center party of Blue and White, with the two individuals that joined together to form this new party, even though they were almost tie with Benjamin Netanyahu, they do not have a clear path to form a coalition. They would have to take the groups that came in, that scored in the center and to the left in order to form a coalition. The left did not do well in the Israeli elections. The Labor Party, which has always been kind of the biggest threat to the Likud party, they're almost kind of like our Republican and Democratic parties, those two were always kind of at the center stage of Israeli elections. The Labor Party, or the left, did very, very poorly. I mean, they fell off the charts. The parties to the right did very well. They scored very high. So it's much easier for Prime Minister Netanyahu to form a coalition necessary to have the amount of votes that he needs to form a full government and to govern as Prime Minister. So he has a clear path. He won the election, and it looks like, unless there's some unforeseen circumstance that arises, it looks like that he will be once again the Prime Minister of Israel. Now, this is very significant because it shows you the thinking of the people of Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu has had his share of scandal through his prime ministership. It's hard to know what to believe from the standpoint of the media and how they're treating him, and whether he's done some of these things or not, we really don't know for sure. He's called it a witch hunt, and that the media is after him. He's using some of the same terms that Donald Trump has been using in terms of fake news and things of that nature. But it is probably going to take place that he will be put under indictment. But notwithstanding that, most Israelis have been so pleased with Israel's booming economy, with their newfound strengthening relationships with other nations of the world, for instance, like China, or Russia, or Brazil, and of course, a strong relationship that is much better now than it was during President Obama's rule in office, a much stronger relationship with our current president, President Trump, and the United States of America. So between all of those things, and also a budding relationship between Israel and much of the Arab world, particularly the Sunni Arab world, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, but not as much them as the United Arab Emirates, and Egypt to some degree. But Saudi Arabia primarily, Israel has had a real budding relationship with them that Prime Minister Netanyahu has fostered over the last several years. Now, all of this is important for this specific reason, because I have told you in the past that there is a plan underway with President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu and most likely Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia to put forward a peace plan between Israel and the Palestinians. And that becomes very significant, and if Prime Minister Netanyahu is not in place to do that, if he had lost the election, then a key component of that plan, or bringing that plan to fruition, would not have been part of this coalition. So we don't know what the plan will entail. I can tell you that President Trump has been doing some amazing things as it relates to Israel. First, moving the United States Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and recognizing Israel's sovereign status over Jerusalem. And then just a short time ago, recognizing Israel's sovereign right over the Golan Heights. And I have an article in this issue of the magazine that will be coming out shortly on the Golan Heights. The United States stands alone with Israel on the Golan Heights. So very significant. So the president is moving quickly towards solving some of these issues. That is his goal. He has stated he'd like to see peace take place in the Middle East. Of course, as I said to you before, there will be no long, eternal, lasting peace until Jesus Christ returns as King of Kings and Lord of Lords to rule and reign from Jerusalem. But in the meantime, you have these leaders that are doing their best to bring about a peaceful resolution to the conflict going on that has been raging for a long period of time.